This is the CGI rendered Christmas card that I sent out to friends and family this year. It speculates that Santa's Workshop has started using 3D printers to create toys. But many of my friends and family have never seen a 3D printer and don't know how they work. So to try to educate them, I decided to include a small little trinket in their Christmas card. It's a little ornament in the shape of a piece of holly, and I've customized it with their name on each one. I've created this video to demonstrate the steps that I went through to make this little trinket. I hope you enjoy it. The first step is to design the object using computer-aided design or CAD software. The software I'm using is called Blender 3D. Generally, it's used to make characters for computer animations and video games, but it can also be used to design parts to be 3D printed. Here I have the piece of holly with my name on it, and as you can see, as I drag the mouse around, I can tilt the object and look at it from any direction that I want to. I'm going to show you how I used Blender to create this object. I started by sketching 3 curved lines that designate the outline of 1/4 of the holly shape. You click on each endpoint to define the start and the end of the line, and then you can adjust the line to make it curve however you want. Here I switch into edit mode, and you can see the orange straight lines connected to the curve are called handles. You can grab a hold of the handle and move it around to adjust the shape of the curve however you want. These curves are called Bezier splines, and they're very handy for drawing abstract shapes. It's easier than trying to freehand draw a curve using the mouse. As you see, I can drag the handle around in different directions. As I do so, it greatly affects the shape of the curve. Here I've grabbed a different handle to show you just how widely you can adjust the curve. I can twist the handle around and make all sorts of shapes. Also, the length of the handle defines how much influence it has over the curve. I don't need to draw the entire outline of the holly because it's symmetrical. I can use a modifier to mirror left and right the piece that I've already drawn. This mirrors across the y-axis. Then I do another mirror modifier to mirror across the x-axis. I've left out a bunch of steps that show how I took this outline and created a solid object out of it. I also drilled a hole in the left side of the object so that you can hang it up like a Christmas ornament. As you can see, it's not just a completely flat object, but it actually has some thickness to it as I rotate it around. I'm going to zoom in, and you can see that I've added a beveled edge on the side of the object. Now I will show you how I created the text for the object. In Blender, text is a flat, two-dimensional object. Here I have my name, and as you see, as I rotate it around, it's completely flat. But we need to leave it in that flat mode so that it can be edited. I go into edit mode, and I backspace through my name, and then I add my sister's name. I had to go through this process for each individual ornament that I created for different people on my Christmas mailing list. Now I need to make a copy of that 2D text so that it could be later edited. I hide one of the copies, and the other copy will be turned into something called a mesh, using the mesh convert command. A mesh can then be extruded from a 2D object into a 3D object. I go into edit mode, select the object, and then tell it to extrude in the upward direction 1.5 millimeters. Now I exit edit mode and we have our 3D text. We're going to bring back the holly piece, and as I rotate and zoom in and out, you can see how the text is above the surface of the holly, which is exactly what we're looking for. After selecting both the text and the holly objects, we then go into the File Export menu and export as STL files. We click on Selected Only, and we go up and we type in the file name of Carol. And we are done creating our file. Now we move to a 3D printer program called Simplify 3D. We click on the Import button, which calls up a dialog, and we select carol.stl. It drops it in the middle of our build area. This cube is sort of a representation of the capacity of our 3D printer to print objects. It puts it right in the center, and we're going to zoom in and show you what it looks like. Now we click on the Prepare to Print button, and it gives us a graphical representation of how the printer nozzle will move as it's printing the object. The line around the outside is put there so that you can sort of prime the pump and get the plastic flowing smoothly in the nozzle. Now we're looking layer by layer how the 3D printer will create the object. In the middle layers, it doesn't fill in solid. It uses a crosshatch of 20% of solid so that you don't waste any plastic. This is a photo of my PrinterBot Metal Plus 3D printer. I purchased it in 2015 as a 60th birthday present to myself. On the upper right, you can see a spool of green plastic filament sitting just above the power supply. That filament feeds into a nozzle that is heated at 210 degrees centigrade. This view is from a webcam that I have pointed at the build surface. This video is going to show you how I actually printed one of the pieces of holly. The printer first touches the nozzle down on 3 of the corners of the print bed to measure the height. That auto levels the print bed so that everything comes out nice and even. We have to wipe some of the ooze off of the nozzle before we start printing. Unfortunately, the camera was pointed wrong and you can't see that. Now it's going to draw an outline around the object. You saw this in the print preview that we had in Simplify 3D. This allows the plastic to begin flowing smoothly before we actually begin printing the object. It takes about 5 wraps around the outside edge, and then it will start printing the interior. The blue surface of the print bed is a piece of painter's tape. That particular type of tape seems especially well suited for printing on. It helps the object stick to the tape very easily, and it doesn't come loose while you're printing. Unfortunately, sometimes it's difficult to get the part unstuck once you've completed it. As you can see in the front, we've previously printed one of these objects, and it sort of tore up the paper tape. After drawing an outline of the shape 3 times around, Now it goes back and fills in, back and forth, back and forth. Each layer of the print is 0.2 millimeters thick, although we often print the first layer at about half of that height. The diameter of the nozzle is 0.4 millimeters. The entire object is going to be about 2.5 millimeters thick when completed. In addition to printing the first layer at something less than a full height, we also print the first layer at something less than full speed. You will notice as it starts to print the second layer, the nozzle will begin moving much faster. Look how quickly it whips around the outside edge, the 3 laps, and how quickly it fills in the center portion. Printing the first layer at a lower height and a lower speed makes it stick to the build surface better and gives you better results. It's not so critical on a big flat piece like this, but if you have a piece that has a smaller first surface area, that can be really critical. I did not have the microphone turned on the webcam as I recorded this video. If I did, you would not have been able to hear my voiceover narration. The machine is quite noisy, making all sorts of buzzing sounds as the stepper motors move the build plate forward and back and move the nozzle left and right, and then raise the nozzle for each layer. Once the first couple of layers have been put down, the next several layers do not fill in entirely. There is a crosshatch pattern that only fills in about 20%. This saves a lot of plastic, not so much on a small part like this, but on a very big part, it saves a lot of plastic and a lot of build time. Most of the objects I print take between 1 and 2 hours, but some really big projects can take hours, even overnight. I've seen some gadgets that people have built online where they let the printer run more than 24 hours. So 3D printing is not a very fast process. This video is going to continue for another 4 or 5 minutes, so I won't be offended if you want to skip to the end. Go to about the 17-minute mark for some final comments. We've now completed the basic shape of the holly, and soon it's going to start drawing in the letters of the name. See, it's drawing the outline of each letter. This video happens to be printing one with the name Linda on it. And now the process is complete. The nozzle moves out of the way, and we're all finished. I hope this has given you some insight into how 3D printers work. For more info, visit tech.cyborg5.com.